Whole sports all plays. Yeah. Whole sports all plays. Whole sports all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. Sport all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. Whole sports all plays.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It is a Friday afternoon. That means ASAP Recap is back. I am Aman Patel, and I'm here with Stat Guy, with Siri, with Dustin. Dustin, how you feeling today?
Oh, just living, getting ready for the weekend and some more football action.
Absolutely, more football action, and we had a terrific weekend in football action. I think a lot of us predicted what was going to happen, but some things that we all were like, wow, when we were going out there and watching it. So I want to start with you. Super Wild Card Weekend. What's that moment from this weekend that really stood out to you?
I hate to say it to your Patriots, but I gotta throw that one in there, not because the Patriots lost. I said it last Friday on the morning show that I was pretty much all Buffalo all week up until what I saw the weather was going to be, and then I switched my pick. Even though I switched it, I never expected the score to be what it was, especially when you have a Bill Belichick coach team who, regardless who's the quarterback, regardless of what that team goes through, they always seem to figure out a way to get it done in the postseason. And the fact that Buffalo had the ball 8 times with the first 7 resulting in touchdowns and then the last one resulting in a kneel down, I don't care who you're playing and how good your offense is. That's impressive against anybody. And just to kind of see what they did, that's the Buffalo that everyone expected to see from week 1, the Buffalo that a lot of people had making the Super Bowl. And that's the team that they showed that the first couple of weeks of the season, they were showing that, but then they went through that 4 or 5 week stretch where they really struggled. But then if you look at towards the end of the year, they started to play that way again. And I can't remember who said it, but if you look at the 11 wins that they had this year, their average margin of victory in those 11 wins was by 20 points. So when they beat you, they kick the crap out of you. But when they lose, you can look at that Jacksonville game. They lose very ugly.
Yeah. Well, that was definitely the thing for me this weekend. I got crucified by every Patriots fan known to mankind, especially Pride, because I did pick the Buffalo Bills to win that game, but never in my wildest nightmares ever imagined this going down. Again, you talk about it. 7 times that they had the football before the kneel down. They scored 7 touchdowns. And really, I was watching the mic'd up a couple days ago, and it was the moment when Jordan Poyer's talking. He said, this is the end of the era. Their era is over. And it just kind of felt like that. It kind of felt like they just took it all away. And the Micah Hyde interception just set the tone from that moment forward. And you're just there. Oh, my goodness. And just the onslaught on top of onslaught. Everyone's talking about Josh Allen. What can you do in cold weather? He needs to take a Viagra. Apparently, Josh Allen's pretty darn good in cold weather. It doesn't matter. Josh Allen's just a good quarterback. It was sad to see, obviously, because you can see behind me, and it really felt like the end of an era because you're sitting there, man, we just could not do anything against a team that once they got up 7-0, got the interception, I was like, man, it's going to be a long day. And it definitely was that long day from that point forward.
Yeah, and the thing is what you said about the end of an era, you could kind of already say that last year, not because of the Patriots record or anything, but Tom Brady was gone already last year. So you could already last year say the end of the Patriots era was there because it's the first time in 2 decades Tom Brady wasn't there. So you go through Cam Newton, Jared Stidham, and whoever else who used that quarterback last year, and you bring in Mac Jones this year. I mean, I'm not going to say Mac Jones is going to be terrible, but he's still no Tom Brady. So to expect that the Patriots era is going to continue with Mac Jones is pretty asinine just because he's a rookie. You don't know what to expect. So you can already say the end of the era was last year. But with the statement win that Buffalo showed there, they pretty much showed that as long as Josh Allen is their quarterback, the NFC East or the AFC East is going to have to go through Buffalo.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It was a real passing of the guard moment, that turning of the guard. But there's also another crazy thing that happened Wild Card Weekend, and I think this was all the game we were looking at. It was Dallas, it was the 49ers, and you're sitting there, man, this game could really be interesting, right? You know the history of it, the rivalries between the two sides. And then you watch this game and you start it off and you're thinking the Niners are going to blow out Dallas. And then Jimmy Garoppolo kind of stinks it up in the second half. Dallas starts to get back into it. And then Dallas has an opportunity that last drive, and then we all know what happened on that last play, the QB draw. Dustin, I want to know your reaction to that now that you have a week separated from it. What like do you like the call now? Do you still think do you think it was a bad call? What was your whole thing when you saw them run a QB draw with about 10 seconds left on the clock?
I mean, I know Jay's going to hate me because this is the one time I picked the damn Dallas Cowboys to win a playoff game, and they let me down. So never again am I picking the Cowboys in the playoffs. But this was such a Mike McCarthy move, wouldn't you say? I mean, you have I think it was a minute and 2, maybe even less than a minute left, and you knew you had to get a touchdown. Mm-hmm. And Dallas drove the ball 45 yards in like 20 seconds, just literally firing passes to the sidelines and do whatever they want. They had a chance to throw 2 more passes. Literally a couple of quick sideline hitters just to get the ball to around the 30, 35-yard line. And yet you chose a quarterback draw up the middle with no timeouts left. You know San Francisco's not going to tackle you unless they have to. Yeah. And you could watch it on the play. Like you saw Dak running, and there was a couple 49ers players that could have hit him. They just backed off and let him keep going. And then I think he finally realized, like, crap, I need to get down here and slide. It is what it is. I like the call in a sense that it would have worked had he run out of bounds, or it would have worked if he got down maybe 5 yards sooner, because then the referee wouldn't have had to run 20 yards downfield to spot the ball, and you would have still had a chance to spike it with a couple seconds left. And I think ultimately, as much as I disagree with the play call, I think the play call would have worked if Prescott would have known where he was on the field and where the official was, knowing that once you get down, you have to still give that ball to the referee to spike it.
Yeah, it was, again, I watched the mic'd up because I always think the mic'd up are really interesting. And one of the assistant coaches for the Cowboys was talking to Zeke on the sideline, said they're covering the outside. The middle is wide open. You get 15 quick hitter there, get down, and you can get another play going. And I'm sitting there, okay. And my live reaction to it was, wow, this is just an interesting play call. And you hit it right on the nail. You're saying, well, just get down. Just get down as fast as you can. Like, as long as you're in that kind of range, just as soon as you can get down, get down. And I think for me, it was okay, whatever. The play doesn't work. If it worked, you would have been seen as a genius. It didn't work, whatever. But then you go out there, and then afterwards, everyone's talking about, oh, well, the refs are at fault for this. And it just felt the most Cowboys thing that there's always someone else to blame. It just was how the rule. The rule hasn't changed ever. You have to give the ball to the ref. That's just everyone knows that. You see it on every single drive, every single 2-minute drill. You have to give the ball to the ref to spot it, and then you can go and snap it. That's not the ref's fault. That's just the rules of the game. And it was just so mind-boggling that everybody was just coming after the refs, the Cowboys players. I know Dak came out later in the week and said, okay, back off of them. Sorry for my comments. But it was just mind-boggling that it was not just one guy who said it. It was a pretty much predominant attitude amongst the people in that Cowboys locker room.
And I mean, I think the main thing that brought the Cowboys fans to saying that was that fake punt earlier in the game where Dallas gets the first down. The play clock never reset. It should have went to 40 seconds, but instead it stayed at 25 seconds or whatever. And Dallas was lined up with like 4 seconds ready to snap it. And you had the referee standing over the football, not letting him snap it. And they ended up getting a delay of game out of that. Yeah. I still don't know how they got a delay of game out of that, especially when the play clock never reset. And you had both the offense and defensive lines set for the snap with 4 seconds left. So why the official stood there and didn't let him snap it is beyond me. And I think that's the main reason. Obviously, we know what the rule is, but I think that's the main reason why you have all the Cowboy fans saying that, because in my mind, I think they feel like they got cheated on those 2 plays. One, because it resulted in a penalty, and the other one because the referee basically picking the ball up, moving it back 2 yards, and then getting away essentially took 2 or 3 seconds off the clock, where if he would have just let the ball where it was, Dallas would have had a chance to spike it quick with maybe 1 or 2 seconds left and at least throw one more play.
Yeah, it's a sticky situation, but again, the rules at some point. And early in the game on the fake punt really didn't make any sense. I still don't really know why, but again, in this situation, you know the rule and you understand. I guess him moving it back was an issue, but again, I didn't really find that to be the biggest thing in the world. But again, I think it's just hard to find sympathy for the Cowboys because I think their fans have just been that way. Sorry, Jay, you're great, but there's a lot of Cowboys fans that just kind of ruffle your feathers a little bit, and then the way the Cowboys are, it just always seems to be an excuse, right? There's always something that, it's not our fault we didn't win. It's this person, it's that person. And you don't see a big uproar of support for the Cowboys in the sense of, oh, man, I feel bad for the Dallas Cowboys. Everyone's like, okay, whatever. Just you deserve that one. Or I don't know. It didn't feel like there's a certain teams. If this would have happened to the Cardinals, I think a lot of people would have been a little bit more upset that non-Cardinals.
Exactly. Like Cowboys are one of those teams where you don't feel bad when this kind of stuff happens to, for whatever reason. I don't know how the hatred from the Cowboys all started, just because pretty much my entire life they've won that one Super Bowl in 95 and really haven't done much since. So this isn't like the 70s and 80s Cowboys that were like so successful. But I really don't know where the hatred from the Cowboys happened. I just was pretty much born into the generation that hates the Cowboys, which nobody really cares how they lose and how bad they lose.
Yeah, it was just, again, wild on wild card weekend, and Dallas is going to be sitting at home, but the Niners, they're going to move on, and we have the divisional round coming up this weekend. And divisional round is very interesting to me because I think there's a big chance for like 3 to 4 upsets in the week. I think there's opportunity for a majority of upsets going on, but we were talking about it earlier. So there's a lot of pressure, right, in these games. We see all the teams come out and play who are left. We got 4 games, and to you, of the 4 games that are left, of the 8 teams, which team has the most pressure to win?
Green Bay, hands down, because of who's under center. Aaron Rodgers has been that quarterback now for 17 years, and he has won Super Bowl to show for it. Going back even further, Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers have been the quarterback in Green Bay the last 32 years, and they have 2 Lombardi trophies to show for it. Aaron Rodgers has gone 6-8 in the playoffs since he won that Super Bowl. He's also 0-3 in the NFC Championship game since he won that Super Bowl. As good as he has been during the regular season, and I'm not going to take that away from him because he's been a hell of a quarterback during the regular season, and the numbers and everything will back that up. Yes, he puts up good numbers in the playoffs, but he still has yet to get that big win since winning the Super Bowl. And until he can get that monkey off his back and get that big win again, the pressure's on him. And you look at this 49ers team, they remind me a lot of the Giants when they knocked off the undefeated Patriots in the Super Bowl. They were sitting at 6-6 and ended up winning their final 4 games and got into the playoffs extremely hot, just like the Giants did, and then pretty much just kept playing that way through the playoffs. The 49ers are also 3-0 against this Green Bay Packers team over their last 3 playoff meetings. So this is not a team that the 49ers fear. And the one thing that the Packers defense struggles with is against the run. What is the one thing that the 49ers do extremely well? Run the football. If Aaron Rodgers does not seal the deal this year and get back to a Super Bowl, I don't think he ever gets back, because I don't think he stays in Green Bay next year if he doesn't get there. And as good of a quarterback as he is, I don't know if he can make it back with a different team, just because it's going to take him a little bit to gel with that organization.
I'm so with you right there. I think Green Bay has the most pressure to win. And you look at it like from every other game. You look at it, if the Bengals lose, they're too young. If the Titans lose, Derrick Henry's just coming off of injury. He's just a little gingery. They can't really overcome that. If the Bills lose, they lost to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. If the Chiefs lose, the Bills are just so hot right now. If the Bucks lose, man, the Rams just look that good. Tristan Wirfs is questionable. I just don't know. But if the Rams lose, well, you just lost to Tom Brady. It's just how it goes when you see Tom Brady in the playoffs. With the Packers, there's no – if you lose this game, you lost to a 49ers team with Jimmy Garoppolo under center, who is shaky, is a solid quarterback, but you're supposed to be that number 1 team. You've been the quote-unquote best team in the league since week 8. People have been saying you're the best team in the NFL. Really, outside of that one loss against New Orleans, everyone says this is a team that just looks like there's no weaknesses. And you come out, and if you don't clutch it up, and again, with the quarterback under center and Aaron Rodgers, with everything that's been going on with the Packers this offseason, if they don't seal the deal, you're looking at a lot of scrutiny. And I know the Packers fans will find every single way to blame it on everybody that's not Aaron Rodgers, blame it on everything else, blame it on the defense once again, because Kyle Juszczyk was able to break off one run in the third quarter at some point. But if they don't pull this out, Aaron Rodgers, like you said, who's 6-8 in the playoffs since that Super Bowl run, he's not coming back. And as you said, he's not like Tom Brady, where it's easy kind of to be around him. Aaron Rodgers likes things done his kind of way. And I'm completely with you. Yeah, I think if you put him on a talented team, they're going to be good, but it's going to take a year or 2 to gel. This is the year for Aaron Rodgers. If he doesn't get it done now, I just couldn't imagine I couldn't imagine it happening again.
And maybe it's just because I'm from Wisconsin and I don't like the Packers. But when you have Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers both basically sending out these last dance tweets at the beginning of the year, basically saying that it's win or nothing. I kind of hope you do lose because you kind of put it out there that you were going to win no matter what happened. So I kind of hope you lose on your own home field so you can finally get a taste of humble pie and basically stop acting like your organization is the top organization all the time when you haven't done anything playoff wise in over a decade.
And maybe that's why people don't like the Cowboys either. It's the same kind of thing. You haven't really done much. At least the Packers done something a little bit in recent memory. But I do have this question. The 49ers go to Green Bay. They take on the Packers. Do you have the 49ers winning?
Yes. I have an all NFC West NFC championship game.
Wow. So you got the Rams and the Niners.
Right. I mean, the Rams have been my pick since week 1.
Right.
So I'm not going to go back on them. And when you look at the injuries that Tampa Bay has right now, I don't think anyone's going to be surprised if the Rams actually beat Tampa Bay, especially with the Rams defense right now.
Yep.
Like I said, the 49ers remind me a lot of that Giants team that beat the Patriots when the Patriots are going for the undefeated season. Mm-hmm. They have a good defense. They have a good running game. And they play physical football and got hot at the right time. That's exactly what the San Francisco team has done. They've gotten hot at the right time. They're utilizing that running game with Elijah Mitchell and Deebo Samuel. And then they have a defense that can shut you down. And when you have cold weather playoff games like it's supposed to be in Green Bay Saturday night, we know the two things that travel well, a good defense and a good running game, which is exactly what San Francisco has. And as much as people want to say it's going to be an upset, there's a lot of people that are picking San Francisco to win this game just because of the matchup problems that they give Green Bay.
Yeah. And again, maybe that plays in Green Bay's favor, but I'm with you. I think the Niners pull out this game. I think they're going to get pressure on Rodgers, and then I think they're also going to be able to run the football well. And again, the one thing for the Niners is as long as Jimmy Garoppolo plays a semi-decent game in the second half, you might have something going. But since we know your picks in the NFC side, what about the AFC? So we got the Bengals and the Titans. Start with that one. Tell me who you got in that game in Tennessee.
I don't trust Tennessee. So I'm actually going with the Bengals, mainly because Tennessee's secondary is terrible.
Yeah.
And we've seen what Joe Burrow's done the last month of the season. If I was Cincinnati, I would run the ball 10 times or less and just throw all day on Tennessee and force them to adjust to your game plan. Yes, Derrick Henry's back, and yes, that's going to make a difference. Yep. But coming off of foot surgery and not playing for over 2.5 months, he's not going to be a 30, 35 touch guy this week.
Yeah.
He might be 20 touches, maybe 25, but all it takes is one solid shot to that foot, and nobody knows how he's going to hold up after that. And that alone is going to change the way Tennessee does things offensively. And I'm sorry, Ryan Tannehill or Joe Burrow, I'm going Joe Burrow all day, every day if you have to get into a shooting matchup with him.
Absolutely. And the Bengals, I think they can beat you in multiple different ways, right? They can just go and run the ball 10 times, or if they get in that kind of groove, they can run it 30 times and win games. And Joe Burrow's been on a tear. Jamar Chase has been on a tear, and you still have T. Higgins to worry about, and Tyler Boyd, and they just have so many pieces on that side. I'm with you on this one. I think the Bengals, upset the Tennessee Titans with Derrick Henry coming back. All right, what about the other game then at AFC? You got the Bills going to Kansas City for the divisional round rematch from last year, or the conference championship rematch from last year. We all know the iconic photo of Stephon Diggs with the hands on his helmet watching the Lamar Hunt trophy being handed to the Kansas City Chiefs. Do you have the Bills coming back and avenging that loss, or do you have the Chiefs beating on the Bills again?
I picked Kansas City as my Super Bowl pick from week 1, and I think this starts the Kansas City revenge tour. You had Buffalo that beat Kansas City 41-27, I think, in week 4. Mm-hmm. I think Kansas City gets payback on that. If they win, they get Cincinnati and Tennessee next week. Both teams that beat them during the regular season, they get payback there, and then they have a chance to take on Tampa Bay, who knocked them off in the Super Bowl last year. So I think this week is kind of that revenge tour type of thing for Kansas City. And despite the slow start that they got off to against Pittsburgh, what is the one thing that you saw last week in Kansas City that we really haven't seen all season out of them? They got back to playing Kansas City Chiefs football where they were having fun, drawing up every trick play they could think about, and basically took a very good Pittsburgh Steelers defense and took them out back and beat them by the woodshed. If that's the kind of Patrick Mahomes that you can get during the playoffs, there's not too many teams out there that can beat Kansas City because Kansas City's defense is much improved. And anytime you're getting 5 touchdown passes from Patrick Mahomes, you know it's going to be a long day for whoever they're going against.
Yeah. I think the Bills come out with this one. And I just think the Bills are just so hot right now. I think they're coming off a big win against New England. I think that they also understand that this isn't just the one game they wanted to win. I think they have been circling this matchup. They wanted to see Kansas City in the playoffs since last year. I think Stephon Diggs wants it. I think Josh Allen wants it. But I also just trust the Bills' defense a little bit more. I just trust them just that much more than Kansas City's defense. And I think it's going to be an offensive game. And I think it's going to be about the defense that makes that one stop. And to me, I just think Buffalo's going to get it done. I think they have the pieces to stop the run. They can go and defend the pass in the back end with Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. I just like what I see out of Buffalo's defense as of late, more so than Kansas City. Now, again, the Chiefs' defense, like you said, is much improved. They're playing a lot better. They're gelling a lot better. But to me, I just think Buffalo's defense is just a touch better than what I see out of Kansas City. And I think they'll be just good enough to stop Patrick Mahomes one more time than the Chiefs stop Josh Allen.
I would agree with you if Buffalo would run the football.
Yeah.
Because Kansas City's defense, I think, is 29th or 30th against the run.
They are.
And Buffalo knows that. But they still will refuse to run the football against Kansas City. And I think ultimately that's what's going to cost them, just because you know the way to beat Kansas City, but yet you refuse to try it.
Yeah. And I think the one thing recent history-wise, they've handed it off a couple, I think about double-digit times every single time. That for the past, I think, 3-4 weeks, it's been double-digit handoffs to either Singletary or combined. And then Josh Allen's been taken off with his legs. So if they can keep that up, I think they're going to win the game. But I completely agree. They have to run the football. If they don't run the football, it's going to be a long day, because in the end, Kansas City has more weapons than Buffalo does. That's just the truth of the matter. If you're not willing to run the football and keep Mahomes off the field and rest your defense up a little bit, it's not going to vote in your favor. But I trust Sean. I don't know. Buffalo so good right now, and maybe it's because they beat the Patriots, and I'm buying in based off that win. But I just think they look so good, and out of the AFC, they're the team that I probably trust the most.
Are we in favor of leaving both punters at
so
home?
Leaving both punters on? Probably. I think we could probably leave both punters.
Because I think out of the two teams, they punted once.
Yeah. And they punted once. That's just unbelievable. And I think it's gonna be pretty similar in the sense both offenses drives up and down the field. Yeah, both punters at home. That's probably the way we're gonna do it. All right, we'll be right back after a quick word from a merch plug.
Whole sports all plays. Whole sports all plays. Whole sports all plays. 365, we're making a plays. You talking the game, get you to the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. Sport all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. Whole sports all plays. Whole sports all plays. Network. We on top of our game. Whole sports all plays. Whole sports all plays.
All right. So welcome back. You saw the merch. Go check that out. We're going to transition into the NBA. We're going to talk about Dustin's favorite, DeMar DeRozan. And what you're seeing on your screen is going to pop up in just a touch. You're seeing this Instagram post from NBA on ESPN, and they're talking about the most valuable player, right? And this is based off Caesars Sportsbooks. And they got Stephen Curry leading the pack, Giannis at 2, Joel Embiid at 3, Nikola Jokic at 4, and Ja Morant at 5. So, Dustin, the floor is yours. You tell me why this list is complete garbage, why they have no credibility, and why they're doing your man a disservice.
See, the thing with the MVP this year is there's legitimately 8-10 people that deserve to be in the MVP conversation. Mm-hmm. But, at the end of the year, there's only really going to be that 3 that are considered. When you look at Stephen Curry, obviously, to me, he's still a favorite because we saw what that Golden State team was without Curry last year. Obviously, they didn't have Klay Thompson last year either, but they didn't have Klay Thompson the first half of the season this year, and Golden State was still the second team in the NBA because Curry played. So that alone right there shows you what Golden State is like without Curry. Kevin Durant needs to be on this list also, because you can go back to the Eastern Conference semifinals last year where Kevin Durant single-handedly carried Brooklyn almost past the Bucks. And if it wasn't for 1 or 2 centimeters, it's Brooklyn advancing and not Milwaukee. he's been fortunate enough to stay healthy with Brooklyn for the most part. But now that he's out for a month, now that you don't have Kyrie Irving every single game, you're going to see the type of team Brooklyn really is without Kevin Durant. And I can guarantee you they're not going to be the Brooklyn that is the same Brooklyn team when Durant's out there. So obviously you have to take that into consideration as well. Jokic definitely needs to be on that list. He is the reigning MVP. He's putting up better numbers this year than he did last year. And it doesn't take rocket scientists to figure out where that team would be if Jokic was not on that team. I mean, Giannis to me on that list is kind of the same thing that I have about LeBron James. You're going to get your MVP votes just based on your name, based on how you play, and based on everything else. And Ja Morant, as well as he has played, I don't like him on that list, mainly because the Grizzlies are 11-2 without him. So that just shows you that the Grizzlies have a lot of overall talent. But, I mean, DeMar DeRozan, do I think he should get MVP votes? Yes. But he has cooled off a lot over the last couple weeks. And granted, when Lonzo Ball, Zach LaVine, and a bunch of other people hit the injured list, yes, your numbers aren't going to look that good because everyone's focusing on you now. Yeah. So, of course, he was going to struggle. Now, once LaVine comes back next week, which is when he's supposed to come back, if DeRozan gets back to doing what he was doing, then yes, his name should be up there because the Bulls wouldn't be where they are without DeRozan.
Absolutely. And I saw this post, right? And I'm just scrolling through Instagram, enjoying my day, and I see the post. I'm saying, what in the world? DeMar DeRozan not in top 5? Like, Ja Morant just catapulted above him. And I was thinking about it, like, I was just randomly thinking, I was like, I swore they've won a lot of games with him not in the lineup. And then I look at this. I found the stat, 11-2 without him. Said, okay. I know DeMar hasn't played as well as of late, but you still look at him. He's still averaging 25.7 points a game. He's still averaging 4.9 rebounds and 4.8 assists a game. And this is now without Lonzo Ball or Zach LaVine. They're in and out of their lineup because of a couple injuries. And you're saying, yeah, contextually in the process of this game, you know there's going to be a fall in the stat because of just the fact that they're putting more attention on who? On him. That's just the fact of the matter. They're putting more attention on DeMar DeRozan. And again, I'm looking at the whole situation here, and it didn't really make sense. I think Kevin Durant absolutely should have been on this list, and it feels like this is a projections list. It says NBA Awards Watch. So what I'm assuming is this is like, okay, this is who they're projecting is going to be the top, finish in the top 5. And they did put in the comments that KD's MVP chances took a hit with his MCL sprain. But again, I completely agree that KD is the reason that Brooklyn team's been as good as they have been. LeBron James not being in the top 5 is kind of interesting to me because of just the numbers he's putting up. I know the Lakers haven't been playing very good basketball, but he literally has to put up legendary numbers for them to lose by just 5 points, and that's the kind of situation that they're in right now as well. I thought he might have been in that top 5 as well.
I think that's the reason why he's not on there, just because we're so accustomed to him putting up those numbers. Yeah. And we're so accustomed to him winning when they put up those numbers. The fact that the Lakers are losing, it's not his fault, but that's not a LeBron James team, which is what I think is giving him a big hit, even though it's not his fault.
Well, there you get it right on the nail. It's not his fault. And the Westbrook situation, the Lakers situation, it just kind of all came crashing down. And I'm sure everyone has seen what we're talking about. They know what we're talking about. Because this is an experiment that they're trying to figure it out. Frank Vogel's trying to figure it out. People are calling for Frank Vogel's job. Then they're coming after Rob Pelinka. Everybody's getting thrown under. And now the Los Angeles Lakers, against the Pacers, they say, you know what, Russ? We're not keeping you out there in the late stages of this fourth quarter. Stay on the bench. And then Russell Westbrook doesn't talk to anybody. His locker's kind of empty by the time they all get back. Justin, First off, give me your thought on them not playing Russ in the fourth quarter. And then talk to me about his reaction. And then after that, talk to me, what do the Lakers do moving forward?
First of all, can you blame the Lakers for not playing him?
No, I'm with you on that one.
That's a better question. Obviously, when you look at how he's played this year, he doesn't even deserve to start at this point. But because he's making $46 million, you have no choice but to start him. But yes, he should not be in the game in the fourth quarter, especially when people when he's guarding people on offense, they shoot 59% off of him, which means 60% of the shots his opponents take on him are going in, whether it's a layup or a jump shot or whatever. So yes, in the fourth quarter when you need to play good defense, his defense is a liability. In terms of his reaction, he was acting like a spoiled child that didn't get the toy he wanted for Christmas. You are a 33-year-old, 12-year veteran in this league who still has yet to win an NBA championship. If you want to win a title, man up and do what's best for your team. And what's best for your team at this point is not to play in the fourth quarter when the game is on the line. As far as what the Lakers need to do, they need to pretty much do what they're doing right now. You start them, you bench them in the fourth quarter if you need to, and if you can find a trade partner, trade him, which is going to be very difficult when you look at what his contract is. So I think that's kind of out of the possibility at this point. But Frank Vogel made the right choice, and that's something the Lakers need to do going forward. You start the guy, you get what you can get out of him for 2.5 quarters, but come the fourth quarter, if you're in a close game and you want to win, he cannot be on the court because not only does he turn the ball over too much, but his defense is a liability.
I'm with you. When I talked about this this first week after they made the trade, at first I was just like, this is a stupid trade. And then I was okay, they made the trade, whatever. What do you do from here? I was saying, man, I don't know if I can even play him in the fourth quarter. Like, what? Like, everyone, if you watch Russell Westbrook play, you don't just look at the triple doubles, you understand that he is bad at situational basketball. He plays at one speed, he doesn't play defense, and he's just going to try to get his stats. You understand that. And he's not a good shooter. So it's not like he's going to take shots that he's just going to hit them. He's going to take bad shots and he's going to miss bad shots. He's not good at the free throw line. So if he gets fouled, he's a liability there. He's just a liability. And when I saw it happen, I said, yeah, this should happen. I expected him to react the way he did. Like someone who didn't get, like a little kid who didn't get the toy he wanted. Man, I was with like a 7-year-old a couple weeks ago, and they didn't get what they wanted, and they started crying. And I said, man, this is Russell. And I saw this. I said, this is just this kid, because that's all it is. And I think at some point you have to understand this is the grave I've dug for myself. And for him, this is how you know it's not about winning, because we've seen the quote. We've all heard about it, right? What he says, ultimately, you have to be okay when stuff doesn't go well, and I'm okay. I've done everything I've been asked of me here, and I'll continue to do so. And if we get a championship, great. If not, well, good. And you hear that quote, and then you're like, so winning doesn't matter. And then now apparently, I want to be the reason we win because you didn't play in the fourth quarter. It's mind-boggling. And again, I'm with you. Frank Vogel made the exact right decision to say, hey, look, Russ, you're not playing, because what he said, that I thought who was on the court were the best five to be on the court, and Russell Westbrook is not part of that best five, and nor should he be, because he's not part of that best five. So what do they do going forward now, right? What do they do? I've been saying this for a long time. I think you got to bench Russell Westbrook. And again, that's a shot to his ego, and he's not going to like it. But if you want to win, I don't know if you can win, but your only shot to win, to me, is if he comes off the bench. You give him a little bit more space to work with. You give him a little bit more control with the second unit, and you surround him with a couple more shooters, I guess, than Melo and Monk, and you let him work with that and let him get just the primary ball handler position. Let LeBron be LeBron, win the first quarter, and not let him worry about whatever Russell Westbrook's doing. Don't let him turn it over. Don't let him get you into a bad situation early. And I get it. If he's a full ball handler, he's going to turn it over anyway. But that's the only way I can really see them having any chance. Because if we're being honest, they're not going to be able to trade him. His contract is too big. His value isn't there. The only team that's really going to trade for him would be the Oklahoma City Thunder. And that's if you give them your first available first-round pick, which is 2027, which it seems like they're building for the All-American middle school team that's right now in the country, because they got every pick in 2027. And that's the only team to me that would be willing to take on Russell Westbrook's contract, because they can get a first-round pick. Then I'm sure they get some cash from the Lakers, and then they bring Russell Westbrook home for probably a last season. The Lakers, they're not in a position to win. They have no way to go forward. And again, to me, you got to bring him off of the bench. You can't play him in the fourth quarter. And at that point, Russell Westbrook's just going to be a liability in the locker room, and it's just a slippery slope for the Los Angeles Lakers.
Exactly.
It's just an awful thing. And again, you're thinking about this, and the amazing part to me is if you're Anthony Davis and LeBron James, you just think you know this. When you go to, because they had a part to make in this trade. When they go to Rob Pelinka and say, hey, we want to get Russell Westbrook, you're just thinking to yourself, do you not know what Russell Westbrook is? Like, this is not new. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't new. Yeah. This isn't new behavior.
I mean, he did this in Oklahoma City when you had Durant and Harden.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, Durant and Harden back then weren't what they are now, but it was still two talented scorers that were paired with him. The same thing he's got right now in LA. You have a guy in LeBron James that knows how to win and is going to win. You have a guy in Anthony Davis who knows how to play. He plays at an MVP level, and he got the title 2 years ago with LeBron. Then you have Russell Westbrook, who's been trying to get a title and hasn't gotten one yet. You would think that he would take the advice of some of these veteran players and start acting like a veteran instead of the star, because athletically gifted, yes, he's very athletically gifted. When it comes to shooting the basketball, he's not a good shooter. When it comes to making decisions, he makes a lot of good decisions, but he also makes a ton of bad decisions that cancel out the good decisions he makes. So that basically puts him as a neutralized liability that you're paying $40-some million to just to put his name on the court because fans are going to come watch him play.
It's insane. And again, if this is the first time he's ever played with a superstar and it happens, fine. You know what? It didn't work out. But this is a consistent trend out of Russell Westbrook. You talk about in OKC. How about in Houston, right? When they traded for him and Russ and James are best friends and this is going to work because they both want him there. And then you look at it in the playoffs, he's unhappy. He wants out after a year. He's not playing well. We've all seen the pictures of how the Lakers guarded him. They said, okay, shoot the basketball. Just shoot, please. You shoot. Out of everybody on this team, let Russell Westbrook shoot because you're not going to beat us. And then you go get that guy? It's just mind-boggling to me what and how Russell Westbrook was able to, persuade, put a magic spell. I don't know if he knows Harry Potter and did some magic on. I don't know what the heck is going on here, but Russell Westbrook, this is just it was something waiting to happen. We could all see it, and apparently the Lakers couldn't see it.
And I've said this on the morning show for a while now. Russell Westbrook's getting paid $44 million. Just put that into perspective for a second. The Lakers could have had DeMar DeRozan, Alex Caruso, and Buddy Hield for $37 million combined. They would have had an additional $7 million to add one or two more pieces by not getting Russell Westbrook, and the team would be in a much better position than what they are now.
Man, you're going to make Freddie a madman because you're exactly right. And those are guys who, let's be real, would have just been a better, even just in the locker room. If they're not putting up the numbers they are now, in the locker room, they're just better for the locker room. You know what I mean? Even if they don't put up, if DeMar's not having an MVP year, I guarantee you he's not going to have a fall from grace. He's not going to.
No, he's still going to give you his 20.5 rebound, 5 assists.
He's not going to give you 12 points. He's not going to be 2 of 11 shooting inside the arc. That's never going to happen out of DeMar DeRozan. Alex Caruso, you're still going to get great defense. You're still going to get great effort. Buddy Hield is still going to give you decent nights where he shoots the ball lights out.
At least he can make a 3.
Exactly. Russell Westbrook shoots a 3, you said, and the other team's celebrating. It doesn't matter. They're celebrating because if Russ even he makes 1 3, I swear against the Pacers, he went 4 of 7 from the 3-point line, but then only hit 1 shot inside the arc. He was 1 of 11 from inside the arc.
I think it was that what? God. Did he make the playoffs with Washington? Yeah, he did last year. They were in the play-in.
They're in the play-in.
He was 7 of 9 in the paint and 0 for 11 shooting threes, and yet he kept shooting threes, and you had whoever the Wizards were playing were just literally clapping their hands every time he took a three. Take it.
And again, it goes back to him not understanding the situational basketball side of things. It seems like no matter, even if he has something going for him, we'll go to the other thing. I'm going to do this thing instead. It's my guy, just go and do what you're doing well. If you're getting buckets all you want in the paint, stay in the paint. If this is the one night of 5 years where you can hit a 3, hit the 3. But do whatever you're doing good on that particular night. Don't just try to do something else. I just don't know what to think when it comes to Russell Westbrook. He's really he's an enigma of just confusion of how he's kept himself as a guy people think you can win championships with.
I mean, we could also talk about the Ben Simmons situation too.
There we go. Talk about it. Talk to him, Dustin.
Everyone wants to say that the whole Ben Simmons basically saying he refuses to play with Philadelphia unless he is basically traded at this point puts more pressure on Philadelphia to trade him. But at the same time, they don't need to trade him because they're winning without him. So what's the point of trading him if you're actually winning without him? You can literally force him to sit and not play, pay him that $4 or $5 million that you have to pay him because he pulled the mental health card out and ended up getting that approved. So he still gets paid even if he's not playing, but he only gets paid a portion of what he's making. And yet you're winning. And honestly, yes, trading him, you're going to bring in a pretty good haul for your organization, but I wouldn't trade him because I'm winning. And I would punish him because I said this to Pride and he laughed at me, but then he kind of rethought about it when I said it. Ben Simmons is starting to look like the Antonio Brown of the NBA. And I'm not saying based on the on-the-field actions. Antonio Brown was in his prime when he was with Pittsburgh and basically demanded out of Pittsburgh for no apparent reason. Ben Simmons is in his prime as a player right now, and he's demanding out of Philadelphia just because of stuff that Doc Rivers said or because of whatever has happened in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean, when you say that, again, you think about for the 76ers, they want to get as many pieces back as they can. But the worst thing for Ben Simmons is to be a Philadelphia 76er for the rest of the year because you make barely any of your contract, right? You just get the $4 or $5 million you get from being able to fit into that category. And then you just sit there watching. And it's not like your team is now tanking. They're winning. And now people are saying, well, maybe it is just, Ben Simmons. They can win without Ben Simmons. They don't need Ben Simmons. Before it was like, man, how's this team going to survive without Ben Simmons? Yeah, they might be okay. But now it's like, oh, they didn't really need Ben Simmons. Joel Embiid can carry the load. And I think most of us know he probably can't for the entire year. But the team is doing good. The team is playing good basketball. They're not falling apart at the seams. At least when Antonio Brown got traded, the Pittsburgh Steelers kind of fell apart at the seams from there. Like you could see that fallout. There's no fallout right now for the Philadelphia 76ers, and it's just making Ben Simmons look worse.
Exactly. And at this point, what are you going to get for him?
Yeah.
It's not like you're trading. He falls into the same category as Russell Westbrook outside of the poor decision making. You're not getting a guy that can shoot. You're getting a 6'9" point guard who realistically should be a power forward, who can only shoot layups and can play good defense.
Yeah.
That's very good for the playoffs, obviously. But if you're going to trade for this premier point guard, you want him to be able to shoot just as well as he passes. And that's something that Ben Simmons has never done.
He's the power forward that the Chicago Bulls would want to come off the bench and for Vucevic. That's basically.
I'd be okay with that if the Bulls want to trade for him and make him their power forward and just basically tell him you're not allowed to shoot outside of 10 feet. I'm good with that.
The problem is it's going to be him. Okay, well, will he accept that role or will he be a Russell Westbrook about it and say, no, this is me. I'm this and I'm just.
If he wants out of Philadelphia bad enough, he'll take that role.
He's got to take that role. I do want to talk about this though. So I remember you brought this up about the Washington football team's coaching staff back in 2013, right? How they had Shanahan, LaFleur, and McVay. And then all this week, all throughout ESPN, all throughout SportsCenter, all I'm seeing is, the Washington football team's 2013 coaching staff was stacked. And I'm like, is Dustin feeding them information? Because I've never heard ESPN ever talk about this until Dustin said it. Dustin, does this make you feel good that you beat ESPN, you beat SportsCenter to this kind of information?
Well, I thought about this the other day because I remember that was the last time that Kirk Cousins made the playoffs. And I'm like, who the heck was his offensive coordinator? And I'm like, oh, that's right. Shanahan was there. And I'm like, McVay was the quarterback coach and LaFleur was like an offensive assistant. And I'm like, and yet Jay Gruden was the head coach. And those were your three leading offensive masterminds. I'm sitting there like, how the heck do you lose 6 games when those are your 3 offensive coaches that are accountable for most of that offense? That just shows you how bad of a head coach Jay Gruden was. And the fact that he lasted 6 years in Washington just makes me cringe because I'm like, you had Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur, or Kyle Shanahan eating at the palm of your hands where you could have appointed any one of them and you would have been in better position.
Oh, my God. And so the official roles for each of them, Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator, Matt LaFleur was the quarterback's coach, and McVay was the tight ends coach. And as you said, you had all 3. Any one of them you could have picked as your head coach. And at that time, probably would have been Kyle Shanahan you would have picked, right? But still, do you let Jay Gruden be 6 years? Just, okay, yeah.
6 years, 1 playoff appearance, 2 seasons of 500, and 3 losing seasons. And you had Robert Griffin and Kirk Cousins.
And you didn't think, this they're like, it's just a quarterback problem. No. There might be a coaching issue here. Just a little bit of a coaching issue. Whichever quarterback you want to go with, there might be a little bit of a coaching issue.
Yeah,
and
there's a reason.
that's just wild to me because those three.
Yeah, and they're all in the playoffs right now, and they
three, like,
all have a chance to get to the Super Bowl this year.
And
Legitimately speaking, one of those coaches will be in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah. At least one of them will be. There could be two of them.
LaFleur and Shanahan and McVay have all been to an NFC Championship game in the last years, and two of them have been in the Super Bowl.
There you go. McVay and Shanahan have both been to a Super Bowl as a head coach. Neither of them has won, but they've both been there. Washington
is in the position they are in because they stuck with Gruden as long as they stuck with him and basically let these three walk for nothing. It's not like they traded him to a different team and got something for him.
They just said, get going, and Kyle went to Atlanta. LaFleur went to Tennessee. I have no idea where McVay went after this.
McVay went right to the Rams.
He went right to the Rams from here? Jeez Louise. How do you let this
And
happen?
it's not even that. They didn't even block them. Like, you have these teams that, like, block certain candidates from interviewing because, like, they know, like, the candidate's going to be a good head coach, and they're just kind of waiting until possibly getting rid of the coach they have to, like, just basically do a lateral move. They didn't block any of these three from interviewing. They basically said, you want to interview them? Go ahead. Knowing that they were probably going to lose all three coaches in the process.
It's just crazy because I think it just kind of shows the dysfunction over there in Washington. As much as, like, we like Ron Rivera, as much as we like, the storylines that are coming up, right? Like, Ron's great, but, like, you're just sitting here thinking, man, you could have had any one of these three guys. You could have gotten rid of Jay Gruden after 3 years, been done with him, had Kirk Cousins had probably 3 way more productive years without Jay Gruden as your head coach. And I'm not saying you're in a Super Bowl. I'm not saying you're in the NFC Championship game, but you're definitely in a better state than you are right now.
Yeah. And now that you bring up the dysfunction in Washington, I'm going to pick up on this since I talked about it briefly on the morning show this morning. Since Washington is so, offensive about the Redskins, and now they're in the position where they can't decide on a dang football team name, they plan to move the team to Virginia and just call themselves the Virginia Commonwealths.
Huh. Virginia Commonwealths.
Why don't we just call ourselves the Jamestown Pilgrims while we're at it?
That's
everything
what it is.
else that you want to be is offensive.
That's unbelievable. And I don't know if you watch the NFL Honors. I usually don't, but I saw this one little snippet of Steve Harvey making a joke, and he's like, the Washington football team, they're changing their name. They changed it to the Washington football team. How in 3 months did all these brilliant minds come up with nothing but the Washington football team?
Because they're too worried about the emails that they didn't think about anything else, and that's why they just want to get the heck out of Dodge right now.
It's like you had 3 months to think of something that's not offensive. You could have said anything that just wasn't offensive. Like, you had 3 months, and then you said, "No, all we can do is the football team."
Yeah, we'll do the football team. We'll think of a new name and announce it on February 1st. But before we get to that point, we're just going to tell everybody that we plan to move the team to Virginia. So now we don't even need to worry about a new name.
Man, there's something going on over there in Washington. There has to be something going on over there in Washington. I need to know where the bodies are. There's something to someone's pulling some strings because none of the math is adding up to me.
And then can we add like one more quick topic here?
Yeah, go for it.
So I don't know if you read the thing I put in ASAP in the morning about if the NFL like reorganized their divisions or like the rest of the professional sports things reorganize the divisions.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like sticking with this topic just mainly because of COVID, and we see like how much COVID has affected everything like the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So the longer COVID sticks around, you have to think that every professional sports organization is going to think about redoing divisions to cut down on travel. So if we get to that point, you're kind of looking at the NFC East. I think would essentially go to Buffalo, New England, New York, put all those teams in one division. Mm-hmm. AFC East, you could essentially do Pittsburgh, Philly, Washington, Baltimore. Put all those teams pretty much in the same area because they're right there.
Right.
NFC North can stay the same just because obviously they're all right there.
Yep.
AFC North, you could do Cincinnati, Cleveland, Indy, Tennessee. Kind of all in that little triangle there.
Yep.
If you want to go down to the South, you could have Atlanta and the 3 Florida teams. Obviously, they're right down over there. And then you could have Houston, Dallas, New Orleans, Carolina, kind of in that area. Out west, you could do Seattle and all the California teams, and then throw Arizona, Vegas, Denver, and Kansas City together. I think you're going to have – I think that's a conversation that's not happening yet, but I think that's a conversation that a lot of these sports organizations are going to look to have if COVID continues to be what it is, because the only way to cut down on all these outbreaks is to reduce travel.
Yeah.
And essentially that's how you reduce travel. You make sure that your divisional opponents are within a close proximity of each other.
No, that makes a lot of sense. But again, if COVID is around in 2023, which I'm just hoping it isn't. I think we're all just hoping it's not, or at least if it's around, it's not what we think of COVID at the moment, the connotation we think of COVID. But if it is still alive and vibrant as it is, then yeah, you're going to have to start thinking about these things. And I got flashbacks when you said this, because I remember I had an AP Human Geography class, and like our final project was you're taking NFL teams, you have to add 2 new teams, and you got to you can restructure the conferences or do it however you want to do it. And there's so many people like that, because no one in that class would watch football, and they'll all be like, why is this team in the NFC? Why is Miami in the NFC East or AFC East with New England and Buffalo and New York? Why don't they just put both New York teams in there and take Miami out and put them in the South? Like it is an interesting thing, because it feels like they're kind of randomly placed almost at some points. Like you can see kind of the line they're thinking of, but they do feel a little bit random if you they just do feel a little bit random.
Yeah, because like if you look at it, I get Miami's on the East Coast. Okay, I kind of get it.
Right.
But Pittsburgh and Baltimore are further south than New England and Buffalo and the Jet. But yet they're called the AFC North. And the AFC East is the New York teams. It kind of should be a little switched, in my opinion, there, where Pittsburgh and Baltimore should be the East and the other team should be the North, because obviously they're North.
It's just a wild conversation. And again, if COVID is around for another year, it's definitely something that they're going to have to think about, because again, you don't want to have those outbreaks go and hit the league kind of the way they did and take out teams, take out, the Chicago Bulls and the way they did. They're going to have to want to restructure some of the ways they do these things. And COVID's changed the world. That's definitely for sure. It's changing the sports world as we speak. And I'm not sure anyone wants the whole thing to be changed around or flopped around, because it'd be kind of like, I actually want to ask you, what will, say the Vikings, I guess the Vikings wouldn't really change, but if, they changed some of these things around, how do you think a lot of people would react to that?
I think they would react well, because you're going to create more parity in some of these divisions. Yes, New England and Buffalo are going to dominate the East over the Giants and Jets for a while, but the Patriots aren't the dominating team anymore. It's somebody else.
Right.
Then you move like Pittsburgh and Baltimore with like Washington and Philly. Well, Pittsburgh and Baltimore are still going to have their rivalry. Washington and Philly are still going to have their rivalry. But then you have the Pittsburgh and Philly rivalry. So now you have an in-state rivalry that instead of playing once every 3-4 years, you get them twice a year now.
Yeah.
Same thing with like Houston and Dallas. They play each other once every 4 years. We know how big football is in Texas. Now you have that interstate rivalry that you can have. Now you have that interstate rivalry you can have going on for 2 times a year. And like the other division, Miami, Tampa Bay, Jacksonville, and Atlanta. Once Tom Brady leaves, that's a wide open division, because you don't know who the quarterback's going to be in Atlanta in a couple of years. Yep. You don't know how Trevor Lawrence or Tua is going to pan out. So that becomes a wide open division where anybody can win. I just think moving some of these teams around, yes, they may dominate the new division that they go to, but you're also creating parity with a lot of these other divisions by giving teams that like Miami, for example. They're a good football team, but they're stuck behind Buffalo and New England. You put them in another division, they're probably a playoff team every year, because they would be better than the rest of the teams in their division.
Yeah. Wow. That's really, because I think a lot of people would be it'd just be wow. It's something different. You're watching every single game, because you're like, okay, so can they win the division? And it gives you, I guess, more hope. And then if you're a team that's pushed into kind of a division where if you're an NFC East team and gets put into a division with Vegas and LA, then you might be a little bit altered. But no, I do like that a lot. That's very interesting, because if it does happen, now you do get to keep those rivalries, and then you get to build new rivalries, and they're more connected rivalries, because like you said, in Pennsylvania, you have a faction of people who are Pittsburgh Steelers fans and a faction of people who are Philadelphia Eagles fans, and I'm sure they definitely like to separate. I'm sure they butt heads all the time about who the better Philadelphia team is. Well, now you get to have that kind of thing every single year, and it would be pretty darn cool to have that happen.
And then, the other division, too, that I brought up, you would have Cincinnati, Cleveland, Tennessee, and Indianapolis. How fun would that division would have been this year with the Titans and the Bengals and the Colts and even the Browns, who were in playoff contention for a while?
Yeah, you could have some fun divisions out there. Yeah, it'd definitely be really. And then again, you still have the Cincinnati Cleveland thing with the whole Paul Brown story. Indianapolis and Tennessee have been rivals for a while, and you create this. This is the idea here. If they want to do it, this is why we call Dustin the stat guy. That's why we call him Siri. He's always got the big brain working. Dustin, thank you so much for this hour that we've been on. You got anything to say to the people as we head into the free weekend?
Nope. Try to stay safe, stay warm, enjoy some more football this weekend, enjoy sports in general this weekend, because after losing them for 6 months, I think we all learned not to take them for granted because we've seen how fast they can be taken from us, even if we don't expect it.
Absolutely. Yes. Stay safe. We've seen some surges. North Carolina, you're getting some snow finally. We got a little bit of snow, which was kind of cool. So that was kind of nice to wake up to. Not really snow, it's ice, Dustin. Don't worry. I know you experience that on a daily basis.
I was going to say, what are you talking about? There's nothing to get excited about snow over here.
we saw some sprinkle of ice. We said, wow. But yes, stay safe. Have fun. Enjoy the football weekend. Packers fans, don't be salty if you lose, and accept the loss if you do lose. Don't try to blame people. That's all I'm going to say to Packers fans. Don't try to blame everybody else. Don't blame Matt LaFleur for not going for it on 4th down. There's a lot of points in the game that let you lose. For Dustin, I'm Aaman. We're here for ASAP Recap, and we'll see y'all later.
All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. We talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays.